Here we go. Welcome everybody to 4 things you need to know about protecting your loved ones with special needs. I am so honored to present today with Lutheran Social Service of Minnesota, one of the nonprofits that is authorized in Minnesota to provide pooled trusts and the one that we work with all the time. And so I will be speaking first, and then Nathan Danielson, who is the director of pooled trusts at Lutheran Social Services. You want to say hi, Nathan?
Yeah, hello, Nathan Danielson, the director at the pooled trust here in Lutheran Social Services. Yeah, excited to work with. We work with a few attorneys across the state, and Margaret's one of our favorites. So it's great to have the full range of help when we can have it. So yeah, excited.
What an honor. What an honor. Okay, thank you. So as I said, we're going to dive into what you need to know for your special needs loved ones, with a special focus on the pooled trust, because that is one of the most popular tools that we use. So let's jump in. Okay, this is most of my team here at Safe Harbor State Law. We help families protect what is most important to them. So what we find with a lot of people who attend this talk would be like special needs parents. Sometimes the person with special needs is attending, or someone who helps these people. You're all welcome. But what we are all on the same team of helping you protect what's most important. And a lot of times special needs parents are concerned about their child, not only now, their adult child, or their child who's becoming an adult, but in the future. What about when I'm gone? Let's set up things now so they'll go smoothly later. So that is what we are here to help you do. And that ties in exactly with what Lutheran Social Services does. So here's just a few of my credentials. I founded this firm in 2013. I have some good ratings online. Our firm is fast growing because there's a lot of people that need our help, and we are able to help them. And so I'm very thankful that we are helping more people every year, hundreds of people and families like you. And I'm active in the local bar and the elder bar specifically, so that I can really be up on things and be helpful to you and connect you to resources that are helpful even outside our office. I also like to present on these issues because there's so much education that's needed and helpful. And so if you know of somebody that I could present to, please let me know, because we really want people to be educated and empowered to do what's best for them. Okay, let's do a roadmap of where we're going to go today. I narrowed it down a little bit. You're getting all the four things you need to know, but I rearranged them in the talk. So first, we're going to talk about government benefit rules. Why bother? I mean, why even should I pay attention to this? Does it really matter? And sometimes people are kind of hung up on that for good reason. Second is, what are my options to protect assets if I want to be or have my loved one on government programs getting those benefits? There are things you can do. That's really important. Third, we're going to talk about how the pooled trust works, which is one of the best ways to protect assets. And Nathan's going to cover quite a bit of that. And we're going to have question time. And we're going to give you some free resources. We value your time. Thank you that you're here today. And so we have a free resource to send you and a free meeting that you can have also, because we know we can't cover everything in this talk today. We're just getting you started. So government benefit rules, why bother? There are a lot of benefits to being on different government programs, and it really depends. You can go to the next slide, Gabriel. It really depends on what kind of program you qualify for. So generally speaking, there's programs for people in Minnesota now over 65 and under 65. And so the over 65 programs are basically Medicaid. Minnesota is called medical assistance, or MA. So medical assistance, and all of these are really under medical assistance, but MALTC means long-term care. Think nursing home. This is for people over 65 in a nursing home. If the people over 65 are at home or in assisted living, they're on elderly waiver. That's just what it's called. It's really similar, you're just living in a different place. So that's all for over 65. Also, there's alternative care waiver. You might not be eligible financially for regular medical assistance, long-term care, elderly waiver, but there's alternative care supports. And then there's also essential community services, which is another lower level one. At our firm, we have, I call a secret weapon. This is a paralegal who used to work for Ramsey County. And I say she came from the dark side, jokingly. I mean, she works for the county on the other side, approving and denying applications. And so she really knows all the ins and outs of all these miscellaneous little programs. And so in addition to helping you with the big programs that are really going to pay for most care, we can also help you with other programs that provide less services that are still really helpful. And I'll tell you more about that later. But those are programs that are for people over 65. And as you can see, I put the picture of alphabet soup, because that's what these, oh, you can go back, Gabrielle. That's what these programs are. Alphabet soup, and you need help sorting them out for sure. The under 65 programs are actually more complicated. So if your loved one is under 65, maybe they're on a certain program, or they're looking to get on, or they're planning in the future to get on, it really depends on like the type of disability you have, and mostly that, but also some other issues to see, do you fit in brain injury, in CADI, in CAC, in developmental disabilities. There's different kind of these alphabet soup programs. So big variety in the programs. Everything's a little different in what they provide, what are the requirements. This is one of the things we help people sort out. So sometimes we find out, for instance, we had a client just now, her son was on CADI, and one of the alphabet soups I didn't put up here was EBD. And so what we figured out is he could have is EBD plus CADI, and CADI only allowed him to have $2,000, but EBD had allowed him to keep his $30,000 retirement retirement account, and all he had to do was have a job. He lost his job due to COVID, and so she didn't know what to do. But what we figured out is he helped her with her computer, because he's good at that. And so she's now paying her son, she's employing him to be her computer assistant legitimately, and he's able to keep EBD in addition to CADI, and that way he can keep this extra $30,000. So that's just an example to show you that we can help you sort out the programs, and that the interplay can be complex, but really beneficial for your loved one. So that's one of the first things we do is figure out, are you on the right program, or is there a program to get on? Let's figure out how to do it. So now we can go to the next one. So the benefits that come from these kind of programs, I'm just doing a summary because it does vary by program, but people are surprised how much help they can get. For instance, all kinds of paying for care, in-house, out of the house, daycare, paying a family member to provide care, all different kinds of care. And then including paying the family, also paying family for chores or different things, taking you to the doctor. Having services come and do chores in your house, transportation, providing meals that are delivered, equipment, like medical equipment, different kinds of equipment, modifying your home, respite care. So a lot of times the caregiver needs a break. Case management can be very helpful to have somebody overseeing all this from the county, and the home improvements I already mentioned. So there's a wide variety, and that is one of the things that we help you figure out what's the maximum benefit we can get from the government, since we're all pretty much paying enough taxes as it is. So this is the value of government programs. They're complex, but they provide a lot of resources for your loved one. And if you don't need them now, it's good to plan ahead to maintain eligibility in the future. So this is the action step that I would suggest for you if you want to learn a little bit more about this. And Gabrielle will email this to you afterward. It's an article I wrote just last July, How to Stay Out of the Nursing Home and Still Get the Care You Need. And I know you might not be worried that your loved one is going to the nursing home next month, but so the title might throw you off. But in there is a good summary of different kinds of government programs that can provide care at home. So I think it might be a good place for you to start. Okay, So we already talked about the benefits of government programs, okay, how you might benefit from them. Next, I just want you to think about this. You might be saying, my loved one doesn't qualify right now. I don't need help. I'm doing it all myself and I'm not burning out. Okay, first of all, sometimes people all of a sudden hit the wall and burn out. So sometimes it's good to get respite care or some kind of tour service thing set up ahead of time to give you a break that maybe you don't feel like you need it, but once you do need it, it's already in place and you already know who to work with and it's already going well. Or you might need to change people out and find out what works for you. So it is great to do it ahead of time, even if it's not a crisis or it's absolutely essential. The other thing is, maybe you really don't need help now, but you want to plan for the future in case the person's situation worsens. Or maybe you're providing so much and you're gone and you're not able to, or you're sick. Who can step in? So it's really good to plan ahead. And including the pooled trusts that I'll talk about more later. Those are nice to create ahead of time and develop a relationship with LSS, Lutheran Social Services, and have your loved one working with them and have a staff person they like. And it really can give you peace of mind. So when you're gone, if your loved one gets sick or whatever, it's all set up and you're doing things when it's not stressful. Okay. So the next thing is eligibility requirements. So remember, there's an alphabet soup, and all the programs have slightly different eligibility requirements. However, some of the most common ones I want you to know about is Social Security. If you're on their programs because of a disability and you're getting income, then the asset limit is $2,000. That's what your loved one can have. $2,000 is not much. If you're on medical assistance, the programs like the over 65 programs that I talked about and some of the under 65 programs, it's $3,000. I think that caddy is 2 or 3, that example that I just gave you. That's hardly any. Then I explained like with the EBD program, he could have, I think it was 50,000 or maybe it was unlimited retirement. I don't remember off the top of my head. I actually looked them up when I work on each client because they're so complicated. But that's why we figure out what program we have, then we look at the assets. So this is the problem. If you can only have a few $1,000s, how can you provide for your child? You know, if you inherit some money, but a lot of times people hire us when they inherit some money. And you want the money to go to the child. You don't want it to go to the state. So you want to keep them on government programs and figure out a way to get this money to actually benefit them. That's the goal. So this is a little summary chart here. So if you're receiving government benefits, or you might in the future, and you can only have like 2,000 to 3,000 in assets, that's when you want to protect as much as you can legally to protect your loved one, because 2,000 to 3,000 doesn't cover much. And the government programs, I gave you a long list of what they cover, but there's things they don't cover, like vacations. Some people like natural medical treatments aren't covered. There's some regular medical treatments that aren't covered. Hobbies. There's many things. Maybe a nice place to live, a condo. There's many things that are extras, but are really going to make a difference in the life of your loved ones. And that some of this can come from the examples that I'm going to give you for protecting assets. So just a little recap. So benefits, government programs provide great benefits. It varies by the program, but it's important to watch the asset limits. And because if you're over assets, they'll stop paying until you're under assets. Okay. So if you are, or your loved one is already receiving government benefits, or you're getting ready to apply, and you have more than the asset limits for your program, or maybe you don't know what they are yet, but we can help you figure that out. You're worried about that, then you should act now. And here's the key. You know, these asset rules have been around for years. But in COVID, do we know what's doing that, Gabriel? Okay. I don't know what's doing that, but I'm glad it stopped. During COVID, the Department of Human Services, which was very stretched to the max because all the county workers who administer these programs had to work from home, and they don't have the highest technology like we do here. So it's been difficult on their side. So they suspended enforcing these limits. So we've had people like inherit money, and normally like you have like 30 days to like, let's get it in that trust. They suspended it. And they had said earlier this year that everybody had to be in compliance with the asset rules by June 30th. And they just a couple of weeks ago extended it to August 31st. So this is like a gift. But you only have to August 31st, and it's mid-June. So we would recommend that you start working on it now, so it's not like stressful and crisis trying to do it the last couple of weeks of August. So it would be really good to move forward. And especially if you're over assets and you're on a program already, you will get in trouble and lose benefits if you don't get back in line by August 31st. So how can we protect assets? The general rule is you take all your money and you spend it on yourself till you're down to the 2,000 or 3,000 or whatever, and then you get the government pays. And then if you get a bunch of money, say you inherited it, then you get kicked off the program. You got to spend your own money on things the government normally pays for. So you get back to 2,000 or 3,000, then they start paying. What happens, if you can understand that, is that like if I leave money to my son who is a disability, let's say, and on government programs, if he just gets kicked off of Social Security and Medicaid until he spends my inheritance and then goes back on, I basically gave my money to the government. And I never had a client who really wanted to do that. They want to give it to their child. How can I protect these assets to benefit my child to keep the government programs? So the idea is to help you and your loved one instead of helping out Uncle Sam. That's what we want to help you do. So the strategies are going to depend on your goals and your situation. When we work with clients, there is a wide variety of options that they choose, that depending on what they really want to do and what government programs they're on and what their situation is. So it is like a chess strategy, but we educate you and empower you to do that. So let's talk about what some of the options are. One is allowable expenses. You just excellently think about the next one. So let's say you got a small inheritance, or you had a car accident and got a small payment of money all of a sudden, or for some reason you came into some money. Another example would be the stimulus checks people got in COVID. Minnesota decided that as long as you get your stimulus and spend it in 12 months, it's not going to count over assets. So about a year from when you got it, it will count. So people need to spend these on allowable expenses. So these are things that maybe medical expenses that they don't cover. Maybe you want a new TV. Maybe you want to go on vacation. There's just different things that you can spend on that's allowable that is not included in what the government is paying for. I'm really oversimplifying just to let you know, but I'm trying to balance educating and not giving you too much detail. So the next one is an ABLE account. If any of you guys have heard of the ABLE account, okay. Sorry, I just saw my my notes. An ABLE account were essentially designed by the federal Congress to provide for people mostly who were like Down syndrome. So they're disabled before the age of, I think it's 23, so, or 26. But so it doesn't work for everybody, but you put money in the account, you open it with a financial institution. A lot of times we work with the person's financial advisor to do this. And you put money in there, and then it's used for their care. A little bit like a retirement account or a saving for college account, something like that. So that's an option for some people. Most of our clients who use them as part of an overall plan, a lot of times with a pooled trust. That's one of the options. You can also research some of that online. And I know Lutheran Social Services, and we both coach people on that. We don't create them, but we can advise you about ABLE accounts that can benefit people if they were disabled at a younger age. Next is Medicaid compliant annuities. This is a big game changer in Minnesota. Since about 2015, they've been officially allowed by the Department of Human Services. They are allowed in other states. And when you're counting your assets, let's say you're allowed to have $2,000 to $3,000. A lot of times you're also allowed to keep your house that you're living in. You're allowed to keep a car, and you're allowed to keep a funeral policy. So there are some exceptions. And one of the exceptions is now Medicaid compliant annuities. So this is a total game changer, because we're having clients come in, and if they're married and they have too much money, the spouse can buy an annuity that's going to pay the spouse money over time. It converts an asset that's over assets to an income stream. And that can work out well. It can also work out well if they gave money away against the rules and they're going to be penalized. You can buy an annuity to pay them for their care during the penalty period. So there are definitely times when these are amazing and you can protect half your assets or more. But we can help you figure out if it's a good option for you and your family. And that's not the focus today. Those are complicated. Creative solutions. Okay. People sometimes will take their excess money, and I had a woman who needed new teeth. She paid for all new teeth, and I think she actually went to Mexico to get it because it was cheaper than here. I had another guy who did work. We presented all his options, the government programs, what he could do. He moved to Costa Rica. So he took his money and moved there, and I think he's coming back when he runs out. There's just a lot of creative options that people have done, and we help you brainstorm all of them. I'm just going to look at this question right here before I dive into the trust. My sister is on SSI and Minnesota State Health Insurance, and they're inheriting $65,000. Right. So Lisa, that's exactly what I'm telling you about. And so I can't tell exactly what your sister should do, but this list that we're going through, we learn all the information about her and, find out her goals, her concerns, what her situation is, what program she's on, and then we match it up to these options, and then we can walk it through and say what makes the most sense for you. And I actually didn't name every single option. Like one thing, you can fix up your house, you could buy a funeral insurance policy, there's a number of things. So that's what we do. We get the information from you, we develop a proposed plan, and then we sit down and talk you through it and explain the pros and cons, and then the client decides, this is what I want to do with my $65,000. So remember that August 31st deadline, so it would be good to get started. Normally it takes about a month to do that process of developing the personalized plan for you. Okay, so special needs and supplemental needs trust. This is one of the most popular that people do. And these were created by the government, federal government, to allow people with disabilities to have some money set aside that does not count against their government benefits. Of course, there's a whole bunch of rules, okay? It's got to be set up just right, and it's got to be managed according to the rules, and you can only spend it on certain things. So that part can be kind of a pain, but you weigh that against basically giving the money to the government or having it available for your loved one. The theory is this. Let's say your loved one is on Social Security, Disability, SSI, or they're on CADI or CAC or something. Whatever the government program is paying for, this trust money is not supposed to go towards that. It's supposed to go to other things. So for example, and I think Nathan might talk more about this, but it's not going to go for groceries, but it could go for eating out. And it's particular. And you want to make sure all the rules are followed, because if in one case you don't follow the rules, Social Security can invalidate the whole trust. So it's important. So it's a great benefit, but there are a lot of rules. So let me explain the difference between special needs and supplemental needs. Okay, special needs trust is created by the person with the special need. They're the trust creator. When they die, the funds have to go to the state. Okay, so if they died in a car accident and there's still $100,000 in there, it's going to the state. And that's not really what most people want, right? And you have to follow spending rules, which I was talking about. The other A supplemental needs trust is created and funded by a third party, often a parent or a relative. And in this case, if the person, the beneficiary, dies with money still left, it gets to go where the third party wants it to go. So it could go to their other kids, is common. Or it could go to a nonprofit or something like that. If you have a pooled trust, actually a small fraction of it will go to like Lutheran Social Services, but most of it is going to go where you want it to go. So it's always better to have the third party, like say the parent, set it up ahead of time so that the money can go where you want to afterwards. Okay, so I see that I need to pick it up a little bit, and I will. So the pooled trust versus a standalone trust. Now, whether you do special or supplemental needs, then you got to decide, am I going to do pooled or standalone? The pooled is designed by the government to save you money. They created this concept. We're going to put money together. We're going to have efficiencies. It's going to help these families. And so it's created by an authorized third-party nonprofit like Lutheran Social Services. And then Lutheran Social Services, for example, administers the funds and makes sure the rules are followed, because they are complicated. So I think this is a great idea rather than having your relative try to follow all these rules. They're very popular with our clients. It's the #1 planning thing for people with special needs. But you are required to hire an attorney. So you're going to hire an attorney. There's a small fee to Lutheran Social Services, a fee to the attorney. That's required just to make sure everything's set up right. A standalone trust is where you hire an attorney to create a trust by itself that has nothing to do with this pooled trust. It usually is going to cost more, and sometimes it's required. In certain situations, we need to do that. And for some people, I've had a pooled trust, and they later on added a standalone. But definitely more popular to do the pooled trust. You could have a family member be a trustee of a standalone trust. You could do it while you're still alive, or you could have a professional. And so Nathan will talk more about that. And one idea I just want to suggest, this is quick, you can go to the next one, Gabrielle. I often suggest to people, maybe create the trust now and work with LSS for a while and make sure things are smooth. And then you'll feel a lot better about it. And after you pass on, maybe you put a lot more money in the trust, whatever, but it's kind of nice to do it ahead of time. And why many of our clients choose Lutheran Social Services: they have reasonable fees, they administer the trust, they have good relationships with their clients, they have a great website with information, they are very helpful to answer questions. I often will tell my clients, just call them, check out the website, research it some. You get a feel for what they're like, and they're very, very good to work with. So those are some of the biggest reasons why we see that. So even if government programs aren't an issue, I mean, if they are, I think I've made the case for why we should look at these options for asset protection. But even if your loved one isn't on government programs, it's good to learn strategies to protect your loved one, even if their disability worsens or something. So in order to do that, I know I'm just scratching the surface, and I'm talking fast and everything else. So we're offering you a free strategy session with John Thompson, our client relations manager. It's confidential, it's complimentary, it's focused on you. And if you're feeling like, this is overwhelming, Margaret, how am I gonna move from stressed out to like feeling like I got my ducks in a row? So this is the step that I recommend that you take. Sign up for the strategy session. This is a picture of our office. You can do it here over Zoom, complimentary and confidential, and it's with Dawn Thompson. There's Dawn, our client relations manager, and she is happy to learn about your situation, explain if and how we can help, the process, the cost, answer your questions. We want you to be educated and empowered to make the best decision for you. That's what we're here for. And we've helped many people. I'm sorry about these technical difficulties. So meet with Dawn if, I think we need to keep pushing the slide. These are some reasons. I don't want to waste your time or our time. So If you want to make sure your loved one gets all the government benefits they can, if you're worried about them losing benefits by being over assets, like the question we had about the inheritance, if you just want to know all the options, so you know how to best provide for your loved one, or if you know, hey, I want to set up this trust, I'm jumping in. All of those would be good reasons, and your time would be well spent, I think, on this appointment. So you can call our office, you can schedule online, you can let Gabrielle know in the chat, and we'd be happy to help you. So we just want to, maybe we'll send you the free resource that I already mentioned for attending today. You can do the strategy session if it makes sense, and I will pass it on to Nathan.
Awesome. Thanks, Margaret. Well, yeah, hello, everyone. All right, great. So yeah, Nathan Danielson, the director of the Pool Trust at Lutheran Social Services. I also have my ace in the hole, Larry Primebrook, is with me today. He's our outreach director, so he helps out with Pool Trust and also with some of our other services or lines of services, POA and some of the other items that we do as well, guardianship and things like that. So he's here, he might jump in and help out as well. So, so yeah. So we'll just go over some Pool Trust basics a little bit more in depth than what Margaret has already done an amazing job, some of the services that we offer, and then kind of some of the people that we serve so that you guys can get a better understanding of kind of what we do at LSS. So, so yeah, it's basically an investment tool containing the assets of an individual like we talked about. It's really to preserve the person's, the gift that they got from either inherited or got some money, so protecting their benefits. What I always like to say is usually our average trust size is around $40,000. The people that we serve get a non-life-changing amount of money, and in the government system, as Margaret said, the alphabet soup, it's very confusing. I've been trying to do it for over 2 years now, and I'm still confused every time I look at it. So people, it's a confusing system. So if you get a non-life changing amount of money and your government benefits get cut off, it's difficult to get them started back up on a timely basis. You know, if you lose them on a Tuesday and then have to start them back up in the next Tuesday, that's very difficult. So this instrument was created to allow for that to keep going, and then the money is used to enhance or better your loved one's life or your life. So that's really the goal of our of the trust, is to enhance their life and preserve their benefits. That's really what it's there for. So you need to have a disability, specifically for people with disability, and you can get that classification a few different ways. If you're receiving government benefits, there's some documentation. You can also get a SMRT, which is a classification from the government that you are disabled. And there's a couple other fringe ways that we can do that, but those are really the two main ways. The trust is irrevocable, which means it cannot be, the only two ways that it can be dismantled are spending all the money or the person dies. So you have to be very confident, and that's why we often refer to an attorney or really talk with you before we do that, because once the money's in there, you can't say, oh, I changed my mind, I want to buy a new Lamborghini. You can't do that. There's some rules around that, and you have to be very confident on that decision. So we really want to work with you and make sure that it's the right move for you. It's really intended to augment government benefits and not replace. That's the main key for there. So if, for example, if you receive food stamps or you receive food, the trust cannot pay for those items. And that's what we really, our job is to ensure that that's the case and that we can understand those for you. We have over 600 different beneficiaries, a lot of different scenarios. So we have a lot of experience with all the different intricacies, so we can understand those for you. And possibly the other reason sometimes people choose us is to, if you don't want to be the bad guy with the loved one, to say you can't have that or can't do that. We as a third-party trustee, sometimes that's a better relationship to preserve that relationship with your loved one, which is really helpful. And then pooling just allows for lower costs. That's why it was established. We have 2 people that deal with the clients, and instead of just having one person to support that person to learn all that knowledge, you can spread that cost benefit across the whole pool. So yeah, we talked about the assets. It's used to preserve, and then funds are invested to grow and to cover the low cost of operation. So they are invested, it's very modest, it's very conservative growth, but they are invested, and they do anywhere from 3 to 5% is what we've seen as a return. So it's not like the money is sit there and losing due to inflation. It is invested. So yeah, these are some of the examples of things that you can purchase with a trust. You know, entertainment. We say sometimes it's fun. What we want to do is enhance the people's lives. So we want fun money, you know, do things, go on vacations, encourage you to use that money to enhance their life. So if that means something that wasn't provided by the government, so maybe they only provide, you know, like a dual room or something like that in a nursing home, and that, you know, for them, it would be better to have a single room. The trust can typically come in and help to get that single room or something like that, or a different type of activity or a vacation or something like that. So these are some examples. The list really depends on the government benefits that you receive. Usually we have to know more about you to understand, but this is just some examples of some items that it can pay for. So yeah, and then services we offer. So like we do offer the self-funded or the pooled trust, and then the supplemental or third-party trust. We offer both of those. They're both in a pooled environment. So the standalone, we currently don't offer those. We are exploring that, but that's a different risk portfolio than we currently take on. But the pooled offering in both of them are kind of what, if you recall, the first party goes back to the state, and then the third party can go to your loved ones. So those are the two offers that we do now. And yeah, we kind of talked about this before, so we can go on to the next one there. So one thing I wanted to touch on, one piece is we do have a remainder fund, which is kind of the nonprofit wing of our trust, and it does go to support actions that can support people with special needs in the community. And one of them that we recently did was kind of funded for the Fosure case. And this is a recent Minnesota Supreme Court decision. It was decided on in January and kind of really got implemented in the last few months here. But really allows for people to get the fair market value transfer into the trust. And what that means is people over 65 universally have more ability to open a trust in the state of Minnesota. In the past, it was almost county by county. People were interpreting this rule differently in different counties. And this decision has kind of leveled the playing field across the counties across. So you don't have to, if you're over 65 and live in Dakota County, you might have had a different experience than if you were over 65 and lived in Hennepin County. So this decision has leveled the playing field across and really gives you more options to open a trust once you've been over the age of 65. We still believe it's best to talk to an attorney in that stage, and some of the rules still apply, but just wanted to know if there's any attorneys on the line, or if there's people that, you know, if you've heard something in the past that, hey, I can't open a trust because of some of the rules that were in place. The rules have changed within the last few months, specifically around being over 65 and opening a trust. So it'd be a great time to maybe re-engage an attorney or have that free consultation now if you are over that age. So yeah. So yeah, some of the basic details, fully fund trusts start over $10,000. And that's really because less than that, there's probably a better option for you to just spend the money or do something. It does cost a fee. We do have a flat $1,000 starting fee basically to join the trust. There's no upper limit on asset size. A very simple fee structure. It's an hourly rate and then a flat fee, like I said, for starting and closing. So whenever you are using the trust is when you're paying for that. Our average fee ranges from $800 to $1,400 a year to operate the trust. And that's really, we do a lot of the reporting to Social Security, Minnesota DHS. We do all the reporting from and detailed notes taking basically that they look for, and then stay up on those rules and regulations that change. We do have personal trust advisors. So you get a person that you deal with and gets to know that account and gets to know you personally, so that they get to know your specific situation and how to help you best. So, and this is just kind of a quick overview of, it takes about, you know, once it gets to us, so this maybe after Margaret and you guys talk, about 10 days to open up the trust. And I really just say that because a lot of the time we get people that come to us 5 days before August 31st and say, hey, I got this $40,000. I need to get it away from me. Otherwise, my government benefits are going to change. So I think you may have seen a theme, I would say, for this whole conversation is planning is really, really important. And reaching out early is really a better way to do it than when you're in an emergency situation, so that you don't get into a situation where you might have to not accept money or not want money to enhance your life. We don't need to have you, we're not trying to sell people to get into a trust. What we want to do is make the best scenario for you. And I think that's what Margaret is also, and that's why we like working with Safe Harbor, is that we want to see the best decision for you and give you enough time so that you can make the right decision to do that. So yeah, this is just some examples. We've, the trust has been able to, send some people on vacations. We've bought houses for people, and lots of different activities that, been able to help them. So one gentleman I talked to recently, he called and he set it up, and he actually had a situation where he had a medical emergency, and actually got back. He said, I got this money, I just don't want this money. He said, it's going to cause me too much grief, I don't want to do it. And after we started up the trust, we talked to him, and he said, he was like, you're just our guardian angel. I couldn't believe that you guys, this is an option, that it can be helpful like this. And he's able to get the medical equipment that he needs to have a better life in his house. So we always like to help people the best we can to enhance their life. So yeah, kind of my contact information. Larry, sorry I didn't call on him, I got on a roll, so I apologize, Larry. But,
no problem.
so yeah, 1-800 number, Larry's information, my information, and kind of our general pooled trust line. If you have any questions, you can just reach out. If you think it's an option, you can just reach out to us and just ask questions. Or if you meet with Dawn and you think that pooled trust is the right path, then she can refer you over to us and go from there. So yeah, love to have questions. If anyone has any specific questions or rule change or anything that you have, I'd love to do that.
Oh, yes, I can unmute myself. So I think you can, or put it in the chat.
Yeah, Carla asked, what is the process for getting funds out of the pooled trust? So there's a couple different ways, and we really look to see what's the best avenue for the person. We can do, we can't give direct cash to the beneficiary. That's kind of the only rule that there is. There is a reloadable debit card that is used. It's called a TrueLink card. So we can make distributions to this card, and then the beneficiary can purchase them. We can purchase things directly for the beneficiary if that's the best way, if that's, or we can work through a power of attorney or a rep payee as well. The only real restriction on getting funds out is it can't go directly to the person, basically. But any other way, we kind of work with the client and see what their ability level is, what would make them comfortable, what their budget is, that kind of things, and kind of work with them to understand the best way to do that. So if they have they can even do it as simple as if they have a credit card and they purchase things and then provide documentation, we can pay off the credit card amount that is reimbursed. So did that answer your question, Carla? Great.
I think that that is one of the things LSS is really good at. Lutheran Social Services is really good at finding creative but legal ways to pay and make it practical.
Larry?
Yes.
So like I typed the question earlier, my dad recently passed and my mom is in a nursing home with Alzheimer's.
Mm-hmm.
The 3 children are fixing to inherit 1/3 each of his life insurance. My sister currently is on SSI and has like a state funded health insurance plan.
Mm-hmm.
How can she inherit the money and not lose those benefits?
Well, at the top of it, and I'll let Margaret answer it from the legal perspective, but I would say based on my experience, it sounds as if, in this case, a special needs trust would be the option, since it wasn't set up in advance
No.
as a supplement. It couldn't be set up as a supplemental. So the funds that are going to all of the non-disabled beneficiaries will come to them in the normal form. But in the case of a disabled individual, a special needs trust would be established, and then those funds would, those inherited funds would go directly into that trust. It could be a standalone trust, special needs trust, or it could be the special needs pool trust with Lutheran Social Service.
What restrictions are there for like her taking money out of the trust if she wants to buy a house or a car or something?
What's going to be dependent on the trustee always has the final decision on how funds are dispersed to make sure that the benefits aren't jeopardized, by the purchases that we authorize. The home situation is one where we sit down with the individual and understand, will they be able to have enough funds to continue to remain in the home? So purchasing a home, as you know, is one thing, and then it comes with all the
Overhead.
roof, property taxes, deferred maintenance, and taxes, and God knows what else. And so we got to make sure we don't get them into a bind where, but notwithstanding that, we do that. We buy manufactured homes, mobile type homes, standalone homes, townhouses, condos. All of that is within the realm. Now, that is subject to some benefit issues if they're receiving housing voucher benefits or Section 8.
She's not.
Yeah, well, then that wouldn't apply.
Yeah.
So if they were, that could be an element that had to be considered.
No, she's not.
A car, we buy lots of cars. Obviously, a person has to be able to have a driver's license, number one, and be able to afford, to be able to keep a car. But we could pay for fuel and insurance and maintenance and do that a lot for people. And I think under most benefits, and Nate or Margaret will correct me, but I think you're entitled to one vehicle.
Okay.
I think more than that you can't have, but you can have one vehicle.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a pretty natural fit for us, the scenario that you just mentioned.
Yeah, can I add something, Larry?
Yes.
I agree. A lot of people in this situation, Lisa, would do the pool trust, the special needs trust. But what we would do before jumping into that is look at the other options I mentioned. And if she hasn't already, Gabrielle will send you guys copies of the slides. So the things are like allowable expenses. And like, has she prepaid her funeral? Does she want, you might just, if you're going to buy a house or buy a car, I mean, you're talking about $65,000. You might spend it all without creating the trust. Or is it better to have the trust ongoing in the future? So we really, before just jumping to the trust, we look at how much assets, what program is she on, how much is she required. It sounds like she can only have $2,000. But then, do you want to do an ABLE account too? Would an annuity matter? But the most likely are allowable expenses and then the pooled trust. Mm-hmm. But we have had clients work through it and then they go, actually, we're going to spend it on this, this, and this.
That's a really
most people do the pooled trust.
That's a good point though, Margaret, because sometimes people will come and by the time we have a conversation and they get to the laundry list of things they're going to want to do with the trust, kind of like if you can do that in the next 30 days or so and spend it down, there's no need to employ us, pay a fee, and then put the rest for disbursements if you're going to spend it down in any case, and you need these things. Because sometimes by the time people get to this point, they have a lot of things they've deferred purchasing, and they need to spend that money on furniture or, just as many different things as you can think of.
Another factor is, do you expect her to inherit more in the future, like when your mom passes? So in that case, would weigh in more in favor of creating it now.
Yes, she will inherit more.
Right, so then that weighs in favor of, let's just do it now and put at least 10,000 in there, work with them, get her comfortable, get you guys comfortable, make sure it works. So this is the kind of pros and cons we go through and weigh, and that's why, it's by law that you're required to have an attorney looking out for interests. Not that Lutheran Social Services isn't, but we're taking kind of a broader view.
Mhm. Yeah, and we're not attorneys and don't pretend to be. So we can only kind of base things on our experience and the clients that we've had, but you may have something unique or different, or just for the certainty of knowing that everything's done properly. So that's why it's great for us to be able to work with Safe Harbor.
Yeah, and it's cost effective too.
Yeah.
It's a really good investment to take care of your sister. She's really blessed to have you involved in looking out for her, taking the time to come today. That's great. Anybody else? We're getting close to 2. We will send you that free resource, Lutheran Social Services. I think especially Larry, maybe Nathan too, is available to talk and answer questions. They have resources on their website. We're available to talk to you. If you call in, Gabrielle is the first person you talk to, and she'll set up a meeting with Dawn. And the kind of things we were talking about with Lisa is the kind of things we can, start covering with you. The Medicaid compliant annuity, does it need to be repaid at death? I can answer that. If there's still money in it when the Medicaid recipient dies, it needs to go, the money goes to the state. So that's one of the complexities of those. So we don't buy them if we think someone's going to die pretty soon or anything. It's only in cases where either that money is, going to be spent, or there's a good chance we're going to save a good deal of money by buying that annuity. They've saved our clients thousands and thousands of dollars. We've had people really happy with those. But we are careful to make sure it's a good situation and you understand the pros and cons and the risks. So we're cautious with them, but they can work amazing. So that's a good question. And I actually have kind of a whole nother talk about Medicaid compliant annuities. Anybody else? You can unmute and talk or put it in the chat.
Otherwise, it is 2 o'clock, so we'll let you go if you need to go. We thank you guys for joining today.
Thank you, Nathan and Larry. It's just an honor to partner with you. And thank you, everybody who came. Be in touch.
Yeah, thanks
Keep
everybody.
an eye out for my email. I'll be emailing, so.
Bye. Let us know how we can